Please welcome Sean Lane with ProServe Pools, who is presenting Making Waves or Staying Afloat.
Yay, thanks, Diane.
Thank
Um,
you.
well, I want to start with something that gets our mind thinking a little bit. Um, does anyone remember the original Top Gun movie with Tom Cruise and what year it came out? So think about that. Well, it was 1986. Not really that long ago, but that was when I first started in the commercial pool business and was learning. And this picture that I'm showing is really the first pool that I cut my teeth on, I guess I'll say, in New Smyrna. And I love this picture so much because it's my daughter who just graduated from UF and has a master's degree. And she also had the pleasure of working with that pool. And we still have that same relationship with that property today. So I share that story with you to say that we love the pool business, specifically commercial. And my goal today is I hope that I can help you by sharing how to evaluate the performance and the job that's being done. There's a lot of hardworking pool companies out here that really want to do a great job, and I can tell you, when I started in the business in 1986 for some on a commercial pool deck versus today in 2025, it totally done different. There's some key pieces that are the same, but there's a lot more. So I'm going to share some of those with you. Um, so I want to give you some tangible metrics that you can track today. And I also want to give you some feedback. I'm going to have this thing open for questions, and I want to hopefully I can answer questions for you that you've had through the years if you've been working in a commercial. The great news is there are some very simple points that you can check, and there's not many of them. I'm going to give you that list, and I'm going to ask you to write it down if it matters to you. But remember an old saying that is misquoted over and over again: if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So if you're not measuring some stats, then you're not going to know if you're getting better. We work on a lot of KPIs here at ProServe Pools so that we can improve. And so we want to help you with some of those. We're also talking about working through the bid or RFP process. And I'm going to share some friendly ways to do that. There's some friendly ways to do it that hopefully, if you can hear it from a vendor perspective, um, I'm going to tell you exactly how we think about it, what we think, and I'll give you my perspective on how to do the right thing, and maybe hopefully I don't know so much about savings, but get a higher level of service. Okay, so the objectives of this are: number one, we want to review with your pool company that you have and put it in writing. What's included, what's extra. That part is really important. What's included, what's extra. Number two, agree on what are the performance metrics that you want to track. Uh, what what stays within being compliant? What's being tracked? What's the resolution time to that? Number three, are there any indicators? What are the key indicators of the contract that need to be revised or maybe changed over time? Uh, Number four, how do you run, if you decide to do an RFP process or an evaluation, how do you run one that is fair and objective? Those two, those are key principles of integrity: fair and objective. That will bring the right. Don't go into it thinking you got the right answer. Number five, how do you interview? How do you get to know the company? And is it a right fit for the culture of your community and the desired SLA or service level agreements that you're looking for at your property? And then the last one, um, take that contract renewal serious and be thoughtful, including if you make a transition. Uh, Never burn a bridge. Do it with high levels of integrity. So that's our objective in this today. Okay. If you're a board member, you're volunteering your time, and sometimes I think we've heard that word that is a thankless position. Sometimes it's non-paid. You're like, why am I doing this? Well, I'm with you. I serve on two charity boards, one for the past 26 years, an alumni association, scholarship organization, and a second one that I started 16 years ago. So I know the seat that you sit in. I would say stay with it. I can tell you my experience being a volunteer on two different boards is paid for itself. It's been a great impact on my family and teaching them the power of giving. And so stay with it. So I give you those words of encouragement for today and gain some satisfaction in what you're doing. The other piece of it, maybe it's financial. The reality is, if you're a homeowner on a board, your home, your condo is probably your largest asset. So you want to have a hand in the upkeep and the care and the integrity and the personality of that community you live in. For the CAMs, I can tell you, you guys have the hardest job in the business. So if you're a board member, be kind to your CAM. Remember, all they have coming at them all day long is requests and complaints, requests and complaints. So give them some praise. All of us trades folks, we know the job we don't want. We don't want to be a CAM. So I hope for the CAMs that are on the line, I hope that I can share with you something today that makes your job a little less stressful and hopefully some value that you can take some problems off your plate. Let's move to regarding vendor performance. Let me share a mindset with you that I hope gives you a good perspective. So imagine someone sends you an email that they want to do a review of your performance. What's your instincts? Well, your instincts are going to be, oh God, now I got one more problem to deal with. It's going to be negative. So when you want to communicate with any of your vendors, including your pool vendor, start with a friendly tone. Give a compliment. Even if it's hard to do, give a compliment. State you're looking forward to learning more about your property's most used amenity, which is the swimming pool. It's not the tennis court. It's not the flower bed. It's the swimming pool. The second mindset I suggest is going back to you can't manage it if you don't measure it. So you can say a lot of words, which are not trackable. You could say, hey, it's in that email. Well, we all know, we get 100 a day. As I'm on this phone call, I'll get at least 30 in this hour. That's 2 a minute. So come with some written objectives as to what you'd like to improve on. You can't manage your vendor's performance if you don't write it down and track it. And I would work with them to do that. Another important performance point is meeting the moral responsibility of the safety of the swimmers. If you're a board member or a CAM, you're the person, you're the group, you're the people that have the power and the responsibility to morally make sure that that swimming pool, that body of water is safe for those kids. So the good news is you don't have to figure it out. The government's already done it for you. The government has written the code. We'll call the code the law. It's the law. It's not an opinion. And it's referred to as the 64E. And that's great news. It's already been done. You don't have to write the code. So that's the introduction to what we're going to cover today and a mindset too. So let's get into, what is this contract thing? Sometimes, and we at our company, we manage over 100 commercial properties today, condos, homeowner associations, hotels, timeshares, apartment complexes, and we prefer to call it a service level agreement. So it's common when a new board or a management company's hired that takes over, that there's a request for the contract. So confirm, do you even have a contract or is it a service level agreement? We prefer service level agreements. I think if you go into it with a serving the customer mindset, a service level agreement says, here's the criteria that we're going to do our very best, and we're going to make mistakes, do our very best to accomplish. A contract says, here's the term, here's the payment, and all those kind of things. So make sure you understand, how those two are interact with each other. Service providers like us, especially over the last 2 to 3 years, we've really struggled with the turnover. So keep that in mind. The market, it's called the Great Resignation. In the market, it's not just employees, high turnover, which all of us have gone through that, maintenance people, CAMs. but cams and boards has had a high turnover. So be aware of that and be cognizant, and also, help your cam be successful in your property. So do you think it's worth the time to meet with the company who takes care of your property's most used amenity? Well, that's a leading question. The answer is yes. Um, Request an on-site visit, and when you're there meeting with that company, that pool service provider, that company that's taking care of your swimming pool, which is a big, health body of water, um, included, find out what's included. And do they have any suggestions? So remember that the company that comes out to take care of your pool, you're not the only pool they take care of. And that's awesome. That's important. In fact, if you are the only pool they take care of, that you might want to really make sure you're comfortable with that. Because what you want is you want to learn from them what additional services they're doing at other properties. A company like us. So today's Wednesday. Today we'll go to over, like I mentioned, over 100 commercial properties today, 100 plus, and we learn at every single property. Every piece of body of water is different. The environment's different. The swimmer bathing load is different. The equipment's different. The age of the pool is different. And so you want to learn from them. How does your community fit into that? So let's move to what are some key terms to look into. So this is what I call a service level agreement. Just an example. This table says all of this stuff, all of these actions may or may not occur on every visit. Some occur every visit. Some occur as needed. So there's different varies to that. So you want to make sure you really understand, what are the service days? When is the pool going to be serviced? What's going to be done? In years past, by far, our biggest complaint was dirty tile. So think about on your property. Do you have that complaint? Is there a way to solve that? That's where you want to put your head together with your service provider. How do we solve this problem? Because the reality is, how it is. If you're a condo on the beach, Daytona Beach, New Smyrna, wherever, Ormond, during the summer season, you're going to have 10, 20, 30 bathers. And what's the first thing they do before they take a bath in that pool? They put on the sunscreen. So what's going to happen to the tile? Tile's going to be dirty. That oil stays at the top of that water. So work with your provider. We've solved that problem. You want to work with your provider to solve that problem. We track every call in, and that's greatly diminished based on the way we solve that problem through some maintenance chemicals that we use that cleans the tile when we're not even there. Another deliverable to track is what's code required items. So does your service provider communicate and follow up with you with an estimate when there's a code issued, and what's your expectations as to how they communicate and how often that should be? Well, if it's a code required issue, it should be immediate, and it should be that day, and it should be something in writing, and also human to human communications. As we track code violations along with properties approving the replacement of that code violation, we've noticed that it gets approved a lot faster when you communicate as two individuals. So let me give you an example. One of the most important and one that really gets under our skin is chemical feeders. So when a technician shows up, make sure that you understand from that provider, hey, if one of our feeder goes out, because they do, how do you communicate with us? It's illegal and it's unethical not to replace that chemical feeder immediately. So get your approvals to replace that feeder ahead of time. Don't wait till it breaks. Go ahead and you got it in your budget, whether the budget's right or wrong. Make sure that you've got approval from the board or however the approval is done at your property, get that done. Have it ready. That's for the integrity and safety of the swimmers. A second one that you want to understand is autofills. That's required by code. It's not a guess. It's not a maybe. It's the law. So it's important for the safety skimming of that pool. So make sure that that's done. And you want it done, you know, so many times they'll say, well, the inspector, it wasn't written up. Well, the inspector comes 2 days out of 365 days. So it would be silly to think that the inspector can catch all of that. And they have turnover too. They're in the same position that every organization's in. So if you don't receive these types of communications, this is what's broke. It's required by code. Here's the estimate to get it fixed. Talk to your provider and ask them, hey, how can we communicate better on this? It's not complicated. It's not hard. And make sure and do that. So now let me move into some of the biggest common pitfalls that I see, especially during the summer season. So in the summer season, from like really the hardest part of it, we're right there at the tail end right now. Things have gotten a little bit easier, but August is still hot. So during this time is where I definitely see these. The first one goes back to what our most common complaint used to be, and it's dirty tile. So if the tile's dirty, take a look at that pool on the right. Do you think that tile's been cleaned in 3 months? Probably not. The one on the left, maybe in 3 months, but most certainly not in the last 30 days. No, that's not. So talk to the provider and just ask them, how often are you cleaning the tile? How do you do it? Or do you have any maintenance programs that work when you're not here, especially if that provider only comes 3 times a week? The second one, and this one is a little bit, I think is criminal. So in this market that we serve, the most common way to sanitize a pool is with sodium hypochlorite, which is liquid chlorine. You see the little yellow jugs, or you got Pool Shore that fills up your vats. If Pool Shore fills up your vats, you're probably not dealing with this. But if your pool company does, you may deal with this. So this trash can is what we refer to as a chlorine vat, and it should be full of liquid chlorine, which is yellow. I was called out for an inspection, and first of all, it's almost empty. But worse than that, look inside that vat. That should be yellow, not dirt water. So what's essentially happened is the service technician was there in the morning before me, whoever it was, and they left it like this. That's unethical. So the service technician is injecting dirt water back into the pool. So check that. Ask them, how do you manage that process of ensuring that chlorine is kept to sanitize our pool per code? Just ask that. The other piece I want to share with you is in this business on the commercial side, a commercial technician, the people who clean the pools, they'll go between 8 to maybe as many as 12. 12 is kind of a high number, and they'll clean that many pools in a day. Learn, how are they carrying the chemicals? Do they have chemicals on site? If you're doing 8 to 10 pools, it's physically impossible. It's not possible to carry the chemicals required to service those 8 to 10 commercial pools in a day. So it's real important. Get to know, ask them the question, where will you be storing the chemicals that are required to safely maintain our pool? What we've learned is you have to store those chemicals on site. They have to be stored on site in a safe manner. And that's the only way you're going to get a pool technician to properly balance out the water. It's the only way. So make sure that you understand how that's being done. Let me move to the next one, number 3. So number 3 is make sure you understand, going back to equipment repairs. So you've got a failure of a piece of equipment. The biggest violation I see is chemical feeders, where it's not communicated to the cam or to the board. We have a chlorine or pH management feeder that is broken. So this is a common feeder. It's called a Stenner. And how do they communicate to you? So here's a question. Do you want the service tech to report code safety violations or not? I'm not being flippant about that. It's a question. Well, let me tell you. So please stop what you're doing and hear me on this. Let's put ourselves in the position of that service tech. So that service tech showed up for work about 6:30 a.m. They're soaking wet because of the Florida heat. It'll be 95 degrees today, and they've got about 10 stops. And you're that service tech. And because of the mechanical failure of that pool, and there's zero chlorine when they got there, they've got a choice to make. They can illegally add chlorine to the collection tank, which is illegal unless they close the pool, or they can come see you and talk to you about it and report it. So they get a chance to walk into the manager's office. It's nice because they get to be in the AC for a few minutes. You really dread bringing this bad. A technician really dreads bringing that news to the manager because last time the manager got angry because they were over budget. So you think about not reporting the issue at all. You're the service tech, but your conscience pushes you to do the right thing and go in and talk to the manager and tell Jimmy, hey Jimmy, unfortunately your chlorine feeder has frozen up and it no longer works, and you're going to have to get a new one. So my advice is say thank you to that wet, stinky service tech that's been working out in the sun all day, who has the courage to walk into your office and report to you the bad news. Um, Now, they should be doing that per code. If they're not doing it per code and the maintenance guy has to tell you or somebody else, then make sure you want to go back to your service provider and be kind to them and say, please tell us. And so it's not the nature of a service tech typically to do those things. They like to clean pools. That's what they do. Um, Here's the next one. And this one, um, go make sure you understand how the pool log is being taken care of. So this one is the line, and that's what it is, and lack of details on the monthly logs. That's a challenge. Um, Take this service tech is logging the pool and spa on the same sheet. So this is the sheet that is given to pool service companies by the state to log the health of the pool. So the two red arrows, the first red arrow is for the pool. The second red arrow is for the spa. That's lazy. There should be, well, not should be, there must be, not should, must be a sheet per pool. Excuse me, per body of water. Spa's one body of water, pool's the other body of water, and it's unethical to track data on one sheet like this. On the right hand side, those other columns are meant for you to notate and track all of the health of that pool, the gallons per minute flow, which is required by code, the vacuum, which puts the pressure, vacuum and or pressure, depending on what type of system it is, what was done to that pool that visit. Well, you can't do it on this sheet. So this is unethical. Find out what's happening at your property and talk to your technician. The owner of the company may not realize this is going on. So ask yourself this question: what if your veterinarian that takes care of your beloved pet, dog or cat or whatever, were to lie like this? Well, that's a falsified health log. So know what's going on with that. This is a second example. This log says that the pool is being serviced every day when the contract or the service level agreement is not every day. And there's no notes on filtration. There's nothing regarding backwashing, nothing to say what chemicals have been added. Those are all really important details, especially when there's a problem or if Morgan and Morgan calls you, which is a huge problem. So here's the other weird thing. It's not the 8th month of the year, not the 5th month of the year. So June, July, and August has not been recorded. This 525, this was a pool I was at last week. This is August. So none of this information has been tracked for months. What if your doctor or the police lied on a report? Is that ethical? So you want to make sure as you're vetting out your service provider, don't expect them to be perfect. That is unrealistic, but do expect that it starts with the truth. Ask your pool service provider that you're interviewing to share their health tracking of your pool. You owe it to the health of the swimmers and to their care. So, as an example, if you look on the right, that all that data on the right tells us when all the mechanicals of that pool are working, when it's been backwashed, what the phosphate levels are. At the bottom, it lists the total health of the water. That's what you want to make sure. So I'll pause here for any other examples or questions that the group may have. This section is really, really important. Blue water, having blue water and passing 2 days out of 365 that the health inspector was there, and I'll tell you more about that in a second too. Um, that's not good enough. It's not meeting the moral responsibility of the health of that pool. So I'm going to pause for just a second. If there's any questions, you guys can type them in. And Diane or Lindsay, I can't see the question. So if something comes in, can you tell me, please?
Of course.
Thank you.
Anyone
So
have any
I'll just pause for a
questions
second.
at this? Sure. Any questions at this point?
Nothing coming through that I can see.
Okay, if something comes through, just interrupt me, please.
Of course.
Wendy does it all the time. I'm used to it. 29 years of marriage, I'm good at it.
We're very good at that, interrupting.
Well, I don't know if I'm good at it. I think I've succumbed. There you go. That's another word. I'm succumbed to it. I do what I'm told. Okay, let's move into really understanding that existing contract. And I want to close with this statement here. Write down, please, please, please. I am passionate about this. Write down these 4. If you can solve these 4, it's only 4. Or if you have in good conscience, let's put it that way, in good conscience, you believe that those 4 are being done. It's not about vacuuming sand out of a pool on a beach that's on the steps. That's easy. You can see that. These 4, now a dirty towel, you can see that too. These 4, though, if you solve these 4, you're going to ethically and morally ensure that if you ever get a letter from Morgan and Morgan or Dan Noodlin or whoever those guys are, you're doing your due diligence. You're really protecting the swimmers. So those 4, dirty towel, empty vats or dirty vats. That's disgusting. Not commuting code required repairs. Remember, be kind to that technician. Please be kind to that technician. They don't like coming to you. They really don't. They might like the AC for a few minutes, but they don't like bringing bad news. Be kind to them. I had a guy quit one time. He mentally couldn't take it. He could not take it, but that's part of our job. We got to tell you when stuff's broke. And then the last one, number 4, that one's evident. Okay. Evaluating performance. So let's walk through a couple examples there. I would request a response time discussion. Be fair and reasonable. So let me give you some examples. So let's think about this together. If your house is burning down, what do you think is a reasonable response time for somebody to answer that 911 call? And then for the great firewomen and people to come help us out. Well, fast, right? So you got in your mind a response time for that. That's an emergency. Oh my God, my house is burning down. All my kids' pictures are in there. A second one, you're out at a busy restaurant, your favorite restaurant, with your friends on a Friday night. How long until you get disappointed if the waitress or bartender or waiter doesn't come and at least acknowledge you? Hey, I'm sitting here, and can you bring me a nice glass of wine? That kind of thing. Let's move to the next one. There's an issue with your pool, and you send an email or you call the office of your pool company and leave a voicemail. What's a reasonable response time? Those are the things that you want to be thinking about. Regarding your pool, it may be more or less based on the situation. So some common issues that should be stated in the operating procedures established. An example would be the pool is overflowing. Okay. Well, the good news is no one is going to die. Thank God for that, because pools overflow every single day, every day. But you do want a response time to that. You want a resolution, or the spa is green. There's a spa green right now in Volusia County. I guarantee it. I know there is. I can feel it from here. The next one is worse, a code brown. That's what we call it in business. It's a code brown. So talk to your pool service provider and understand what response times that you expect. Ask your pool company to review those common items and how they address them, and then what they expect a response time. Next, gather feedback. If you were to ask your swimmers for feedback, so you sit down by the pool, ask them, some people that go to the beach. There's some people that when they go to the beach, they're going to complain about everything. They're going to complain about the sand. So be cautious on how you ask them for feedback, but you do want to be objective and listen and be fair. Is what they're asking for, is it fair, and is it achievable, and is it measurable? And can you apply a performance rating to that? It's not complicated. It's not putting the shuttle on the moon or going to Mars. We'll leave that to Elon. But that's some of the things that you want to remember. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I think a way to gather some way to show that your homeowners, you care about what they're thinking about, you've been put on the pool committee as an example, and you really care about this, is to gather that information. So you could use Google Forms, it's free. SurveyMonkey, we use SurveyMonkey, and you gather survey using tools like that. If you post a QR code, it's all automated, and you don't have to actually talk to anybody. You can just get the data and look at it. So what are they looking for? That's another way to gather the feedback from your residents. Now, after you gather the request, then have a practical discussion. Share all of that data with your property manager, or if you're the CAM doing this, share it with your provider, though. I will tell you, be very wary of a service provider that agrees to everything you ask without charging. Put some common sense into place. Put your business hat on. If they agree to provide 24/7 response at no cost, can they really do that? And are they really going to do that, or are they just trying to win your business? So just think about that. That's what I would recommend. Okay, let's talk about this soliciting bids, this whole process. Now we know, service providers know that when it becomes budget season, we know that we're going to receive requests for cost. So if you think about this market, I met with a CAM last week. Today's Wednesday, and my comment to that CAM, your budget's wrong. Her face did not like that, and I probably shouldn't have been that direct about it. And then we all kind of got past it. But the budget's wrong. Adding 6% to a budget in this inflationary period, it doesn't work that way. We all know that. We all know what's happened in this inflationary period. This was a different period. So we have to be practical about it. So the common drivers that we see is when a new board is elected and they're excited about making improvements, then let's go out and find somebody else. So, or the board complains about rising expenses. Well, expenses have gone up. It's just the practicality of what happened with the economy. It just happened. So that pushes the CAM. Now the CAM's got more work. They got to cut somewhere. They got to cut everywhere. Well, the math doesn't work for that. So be cautious going with a lower price. Be very wise about that. You'll most likely, after the honeymoon period is over, you're going to get what you pay for. That's if they come back. It is very common in this business that all of a sudden providers just they can't afford to come back anymore, so they go out of business. So listen to your experienced CAM. The CAM has a good sense about the industry, the market they serve. So please listen to the CAM and take some good feedback from them. So some goal-oriented reasons to go out to bid would be understanding what other services are available that you may not be receiving. So that's a goal. And that had nothing to do with price. Hey, our pool service price went up. Our landscape price went up. Of course they did. It's math. They had to go up. So you may want to change the viewpoint to, you know what, we're happy with what we got today. Everything seems to be okay. Then that's good. Then you want to confirm all the other items I just pointed to you about. Is the VAT correct, or all our mechanicals fixed? So let me give you some examples of existing service. Maybe an additional day of service in the heavy use summer season is what you're looking for. Talk to your existing service provider about that and ask them, or see what's available in the marketplace. A second one, which is underserved, this one is underserved. I call it proactive maintenance processes that reduce complaints. So let's go back to tile for an example. We solved the tile problem, and we solved it through research and finding, is there a maintenance? Is there a chemical maintenance that we can add to the pool that will help with that? That's how we solved it. So look for those examples, because the reality is, as a board member, you want to have your neighbors happy. And as a CAM, you want less complaints. So go to your service provider, go to other service provider and ask them, hey, what problems have you had in the past? And how did you solve those problems? The next one, pre-season heater maintenance. So today is August 27th. Get on the schedule. If you have a heater and you've got a snowbird season, whether it's gas or electric, make sure and have that pre-season maintenance done now. Get on the schedule to have that done. Spend that money now versus it becomes an emergency when the heater's not working and you get ready to fire that thing up and it's unsafe. Those kind of things. Another example would be of services would be automated controllers. So they track and they log the water chemistry, so that if there's ever a problem, you can go back and you can prove that you were managing that correctly. It'll also, if you're paying for your own chemicals, it'll cut your chemical costs. These controllers today can do that for you. And it'll help you when it's July 3rd and your spa's green. It could have prevented that for you. That way you're ready for the 4th. The next one is a major violation in this industry, and you really want to confirm is your pool company licensed for repairs, such as when the pump goes down or the heater needs repaired. So a CPO, I worked with a very experienced CAM a couple of days ago, and this CAM did not know. They thought a CPO was licensed to replace a pool pump, and they're not. A CPO is a certified pool operator, and that's a certification, not a license. And it's a 2-day course that's open book. We've only in 40 years had one person ever fail it. It's an important course, but it doesn't legally allow that person's just not licensed for that. They haven't had the proper training, and it's illegal. So, I mean, a CPO 2-day open book course is not licensed to replace a pool pump any more than the stock girl at Publix is. That's the truth. Okay. So let's now move into how do you build that scope of work? So to build the RP, I suggest meet with your current pool company. Start with that. Give them the opportunity. Be courteous. Be smart about it. They already know that body of water, or they should. Meet with them. Give them the respect. You're going to learn something. I really think you'll learn something from that meeting. And ask them, what are you doing at other properties? What are you seeing at other properties? Go into the discussion with an open mind and bring a notepad. Don't walk out there thinking you're going to have it all in your head. Be diligent. Write it down. Preferably have another board member with you or somebody else that's going to hear something you might miss. Because if you meet with me on a pool deck, we're going to talk about a lot of items. And so please think of it that way. Be diligent. Secondly, review what you've learned from the survey results. Be honest. Don't go into the process with a preconceived idea, answers that you got. I'm guilty of that. And I try to catch myself, and I ask the team to catch me. I think I know the answer before it's there, and it's just wrong. So go into it. Take it just like you did that research class you took or the science class you took in high school or college, and really say, you know what, I want the real answers, not what I think the answer should be. Think of it as an interview, just like you did when your last job. Get to know the service provider, their knowledge, the resources they have available to them, their bandwidth. The season, the bandwidth is going to be shorter. It's going to be less, but make sure you understand that. And their professionalism. Were they wearing a shirt when they showed up to the pool? We had a guy one time took his shirt off. You got to put your shirt on. Here are some ideas that I have for you regarding when you're doing this interview process with a service provider, your existing service provider, and if you decide to talk to some other, another group, do they have a repair division? So who does the repair? Is it the same person that's cleaning the pool, or is it a third party? Is it another company? Who is this person? My pump goes out today. Do you have it in stock? Can you get access to it? How much is it? And who's going to physically do the work? I love when that question gets asked. That is a smart CAM and board member that I'm talking to, because they know the pain if those answers aren't truthful and fast. Is there a management team to ensure quality assurance? So how do we make sure that the service level agreement and contract that's going to be signed, how do you ensure that that's going to be done? What is the QA, quality assurance process for that? Who's the manager? What's the manager's name? So if you go to Publix, there's a highly paid, highly qualified manager at Publix, does a great job. Are they a warranty center for what's being installed? Do they fix stuff? Do they renovate tile? That kind of thing. So just make sure you get to know that company that's coming out to talk to you. Let's see. So vetting new members, what to look for in the contract. Each property I've worked with has a different viewpoint. Some things are the same, but would you hire an unlicensed electrician to replace a breaker box? No, you would not. You don't want the liability for that, the safety for that. No, you would not. So you do not want the liability of hiring an unlicensed person to work on your pool. You just don't want that. So make sure you're vetting that out. Important question to include would be, what chemicals are extra? Everything is included, in my experience, means the only chemicals being added are liquid chlorine and acid. One more time. If you're not being charged for chemicals, that means that everything's included, which means they're really only managing liquid chlorine and acid. I have seen it. When I say 500 times, I mean 500 times. So that will eventually cause your heater to be void, be very, and your pool finish warranty to be void too. So be real careful with that. Make sure you really understand that process. The other one is, what about the chemicals? Where are they going to be stored? Remember, go back to my example. The hidden part of this business is a pool technician with an F-150 pickup truck does about 10 pools a day. Impossible. You cannot carry all those chemicals and manage all those pools properly. You must have chemicals on site. You must have the chemical right there so that the technician can use it. If it's not there, it's probably not being used. So make sure you understand that. Service techs, are they paid by the hour or by the pool? Think about that for a second. If they're paid by the hour versus if they're paid by the pool, they may kind of move on pretty quick. So make sure you kind of understand that. Some best practices I've seen in contract renewals is start with a high level mindset. You'd be amazed with the positive outcome. You want your community to be the customer of choice by the service providers. I know that sounds, wait a minute, no, we're the customer. Just please trust me on this. You always want, for us at ProServe Pools, we want all of our suppliers. We want to be the customer choice for our suppliers. It makes a great relationship, and you hope you get great service. And I think we do. Our suppliers really serve us well. I'm thankful for that. You don't want to be the property that's got a bad reputation. You don't want to be the property say, oh, there's over there at XYZ Beach Club, they're the complainers. Because what will happen is eventually you'll go through all service providers and you'll be stuck at the bottom with who's left. So start with that mindset. Be friendly. Be honest. Be specific, if I can say that word. That starts with an S. Put some diligent work in meeting with your current provider. Start with them. Give them some courtesy. Come with a written list. Don't come with just talking. Come with a written list. That will give them a target to help serve you better. So making a change without communicating in person, or at least the phone, with specific on what you'd like to see be done better, and in writing, that's not the way to conduct business. So make sure you do that. That's the best practice. From a legal perspective, it goes back to who's licensed to do what. Do not hire someone that's not licensed to do work that they're not licensed for. You don't want that liability. It's not worth saving $50. It's not worth saving $1,000. Conflict of interest could be where, a board member has a relationship, Jimmy's the cousin, kind of be cautious on that. Make sure you understand the statutes and make sure you're doing what's ethically right for your community. And when it comes to making this operational change, it's probably not best to make the change during season unless there's a big problem. If the pool's green, that's a big problem. But again, go back to the first mindset of working with um, the provider you got today. Do this. So you made a decision. You're making a change. You're making a change. You can't deal with it anymore. Your pool company yelled at you. That happens. I've heard those calls. So request a professional turnover from your current service provider to your new provider. You may say, well, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. Do it. A company, we understand churn. We give that. We offer that. So we'll have a customer that says, hey, we don't want your services anymore. We found somebody cheaper. No problem. We'll meet with the other company you hired and we will do a professional turnover. It's ethical. So ask for that. Even if your new provider says they don't need it, trust me. Every pool is different. Every body of water is different. Ask for the professional turnover. Be courteous, give notice. Don't give your service provider the last day of service. So today's the 27th. Don't let them know on the 29th of August, hey, you're terminated effectively, immediately. How professional is that? That's not. How courteous is it? It's not courteous. So make sure, be courteous. You as a board member, you owe it to your community's reputation. So make sure to do that. Do ask them for the operational changeover, though. Do ask them for that. Be courteous. Okay, so let me wrap up a couple of things. Some key takeaways. Have written expectations. State what you're looking for. State it. Take the time to meet with and interview the pool company. Nothing is more silly than for us to get an email that says, hey, come give us a price, a bid. You can't, your pool's too important for that. Ask for their suggestions. Use that as an opportunity to learn and leverage their experience. They're going to teach you something. They really will. Ask them how they will ensure that your pool is meeting code for the safety of your swimmers and the reputation of the property. So let me give you a real life scenario. I did an inspection on one property. I was asked to do a chemical feeder stopped working. And we were told that the board would have to approve it, the replacement. No, it's the law. Have it pre-approved. Have it changed that day. So our advice is get that pre-approval, get it changed for the safety of your swimmers. So let me pause for a second. I'm going to open up for questions before we go into the 10 questions to be answered today. So Lindsay and Diane, if you could help me if there's any questions out there, please.
Yes, sir. There was a question earlier that asked, can a commercial pool augment chlorine production by utilizing a chlorinator salt to assist in regulating chemical balances and get some of the benefits of a salt system?
My head is going up and down. Yes, and that is a very wise, in my opinion, managing over 100 commercial properties. Yes, salt cannot be the primary, but don't worry about it. You already have a primary with the state of Florida, but the answer is yes. And there is an ROI to salt now where there was not in the past. Liquid chlorine, sodium hypochlorite, has more than doubled since COVID. And it now economically, in addition, there's other benefits I won't go into, but there's an ROI to it now. Yes.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? I know a few people requested getting a copy of the slides, which I will give you instructions on how to do. And do you want to go through the question and answer
Sure.
slides, Sean, and then maybe we'll get some more questions from that?
Great idea, Lindsay. Yes, I'll do that right now. Thank you. Okay, so we've got 10 questions and I'll go through. All right, the first one is, which of the following should be clearly defined in a pool vendor's contract? That word contract could also be service level agreement. Where the vendor's office location is, that's pretty important. Scope of work and frequency. Yeah, what are they going to do? We're paying them. What are they doing? Number of community pools, board member names. So you really want to know, what are we paying them for? So we're paying them $1,000 a month. What's included in that? And again, I would go back to go to that log and make sure that work's being done. Check on it. Make sure the truth is being put in that log. So if you don't know what's in your contract today, call your service provider, meet with them in person. Number 2, a poor vendor performance indicator is on-time arrival. I doubt it, not an airline. Clean work area, that's important. Repeated resident complaints and clear communication. So if you're getting complaints from the residents, that's an indicator there might be something wrong. What I would do, I would write those complaints down. I would call my provider and I would give them an opportunity to solve the problem. That's what I would do. The next one, which document helps collect competitive vendor pricing? The newsletter, the maintenance log that they fill out every time they visit, a scope of work, or the RFP itself. So in the RFP process, if you do it the right way, in the legitimate way, you can really learn what the market price is for pool. And I'll tell you, be extremely cautious on a low price. Math is math. So be cautious about that. How can residents' input be gathered during a vendor evaluation? Through a board discussion, a budget meeting, an online survey with the QR code, that might be the winner, or a board vote. So the online survey, you'll learn something from that. We do every time we do something like that. And the QR code makes it simple, easy to do. What is not a best practice in soliciting bids? Comparing scope apples to apples, verbal instructions only, asking for license and insurance, taking the time to interview the candidates. Well, verbal is obviously, you need it in writing to make sure there's no room for misinterpretation as to what's being done. The reason to renegotiate with an existing vendor is to avoid bid requests, improved services and good track record, vendor owns local property, or personal friendship. So it's really to improve the services and good track record. Give them an opportunity. Most companies want it. They want to do a good job. Number 7, what's a red flag when reviewing your pool vendor's proposals? No references are provided, no details. License number listed, look for that one. Years of experience. On license number listed, I'm gonna give you one more piece on that too. Make sure it's their license, not their driver's license, not their business license with DVPR, but their license to do the work they're telling you that they're bidding on. So in this case, it's no scope details. A performance review should be conducted only when there's an emergency, annually, biannually. At the vendor's request, we do that, or during budget meetings only. Really annually, biannually. Or you heard the old management by walking around. If we see a challenge, we've learned just to go meet. Let's fix the challenge. Just do it whenever we got to get it done. What's a useful evaluation methods? Number 1, tracking complaints, checking social media. No. Observing vendors' attire, counting pool toys. So it's really tracking complaints. If you write it down, you can measure it and then you can manage it. So do that. Last question is, contract transition should include no written notice, rushed approvals, a clear start and end date, or end and start date, excuse me, or secrecy. Be that property that does it the most ethical, upfront, courteous method, and you should receive that. You won't always, but you should. And remember to ask for that transition between the two companies. It's the right thing to do. So thank you for letting me share my thoughts today with the team. I think I finished right on time, I hope.
You did. Sorry, I was trying to get myself unmuted. Thank you, everyone, for joining for this presentation. Sean always does a great job and is very informative when it comes to pools. So we appreciate that, Sean. And we look forward to whichever topic you will present for us next month. I am going to put information in the chat for all of you. This is very important. You have to follow these directions to get credit. Since we're doing 3 presentations today, it's very important that in the subject line for the email you're going to send for this one, that you put ProServe Making Waves so that we know which course you are asking for credit for. I have my email address there. Send me an email, subject line again, ProServe Making Waves. And then in the body of the email, please put your name as it appears on your CAM license and your CAM license number. If you would like to request a copy of the PowerPoint to share with the rest of your board members or other communities in your that you manage, please also request that in that email as well. And when I respond back to you with your credit, I will also send that over to you as well. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you again, Sean. We're going to take a little break and we will be back here in 10 minutes with our next presenter.
Bye.
Thanks, Sean. Have a good one.